Yeah. Nice fish, I'll take him. What's happening, fishing friends? Welcome to another episode. I'm excited today because I'm finally back doing a gear review. Honestly, these are some of my favorite videos to do. Things that I get asked questions about on all the time is gear. I've got one today. I've had a ton of messages and questions about this ever since I posted on Instagram. This is the new Okuma Hakai Baitcaster. Lots of questions around how does it do in the field? How does it feel in hand? What are the features? Well, of course, I will go over all of that today. I'll break down the features over on the tabletop. I finally got one sort of set up. We'll break down the features, how everything works on it. I'll give my impressions after using it for the past few weeks. Pros, cons. I'm actually using it out on the water. I did get to catch a fish on it. And things that maybe I didn't like as much. And then finally, just kind of my closing thoughts, how it compares to some other reels. So enough yapping. Let's take this over there and look at the features. All right, well, the first thing I noticed right out of the gate was the weight of this reel. So reel comes in at 5.9 ounces, and that makes it one of the lighter reels that I own. And that's due in part to this reel having a magnesium frame. So the center of the magnesium frame, the part that you can see up there on the screen, that's all magnesium. The side plates, it doesn't say. I would assume those are carbon side plates would be my guess. But the whole thing does also have a corrosion resistant coating. So this could be used in saltwater. You won't see me fishing saltwater. The saltwater fishing here in Iowa has been pretty slow, so I'll stick to bass fishing. Now it comes in 3 different gear ratios, and the gear ratios are indicated by a different color on the cap that holds the reel handle nut on there. This is a gold. I have the 7.3 to 1 speed. It also comes in a 6.2 and an 8.1 speed. This speed, the 7.3, brings in 29.9, so just under 30 inches of line per turn. Has 6+1 bearings in it, and we're going to touch on the bearings more because there's something pretty interesting about the way this reel works. The spool tension knob on it does not click. It doesn't matter to me. As I've said before, I personally don't care if they click or not. This is like, it's tough to turn. Like, there's definitely resistance in there. You can feel where there must be like an O-ring inside there. It's hard to turn, and that's what I like. If it doesn't click, I want it to be, you know, kind of tough to turn. That way I know I'm not going to do this. You can see there the spool's not moving. I'm not going to do that and accidentally bump it and mess up my spool tension. Now the drag star does click. And this does put out 20 pounds of drag in the box. Actually, the box is pretty cool too. I like that they went with the real low profile, you know, the black and gray, nothing too crazy on it. You can see there 20 pounds of drag, 5.9 ounces, and all this stuff that we're going to get into more here, but that's the box if anybody cares. But anyway, they say the drag star is a C40 injected carbon, and you can see, like, when you look at it, it's kind of hard to tell on camera, but it's got kind of like waves and stuff looking through it. It's that raw carbon look to it. They didn't do anything to the drag star. It looks kind of cool. Now the drag washers inside are a mix of stainless steel and carbon fiber, which is nice. You know, I think that kind of leads to a little bit of the strength of it, you know, lasting, as if you just have one like felt. Some of the bait casters that you pull open will have like a felt or like a plasticky looking drag. And if you keep that cinched down all the time really hard, when you try to back that off, that drag is pretty much gone. So I think the mix of carbon fiber, you know, those little like carbon washers you can get, Carbon Techs, I've replaced. I like those, and they've just got that stacked in here with the steel, so it's kind of got the best of both worlds, I guess. Now also inside there you can see the gearbox over here is a little bit bigger. It does have a 42mm brass main gear in there, and that's supposed to help with your power. You know, a bigger gear, supposed to put less work on that when you've got things that have a little bit more resistance and such. We'll see how that feels when I throw some really big stuff on it. I haven't gone super large yet, but I'll get into actually on the water here and showing you what I threw. You can see in front of it there, it shows the 7.3, it shows Okuma there. Overall, you know, it's a pretty clean, slick looking reel. I like the design of it. As I've said before, I'm pretty boring when it comes to baitcaster looks. I like black, gray, you know, simple colors. To me, that's just, I don't know, it's just cool. Now, when you look at the side of it over here, it's kind of interesting. Some people did comment it kind of looks like the Shimano Bantam, similar to that. It does look similar in that way. This one opens, I don't know exactly how the Bantam opens, but this one opens just like so. And then you've got your magnetic brake dial here. So when you're fishing, all you need to do is take and turn that with your finger there. To me, it's not too hard to turn. I talked to somebody else who said they thought it was kind of tough to turn. I guess I didn't feel that way. It's going to depend on what you think, but it's similar to some other reels, Shimano's and stuff. Daiwa, you know, theirs is kind of set down here, similar in design to that. But these are externally adjustable brakes, so the magnetic brakes in there, you don't need to actually take this side plate off to get in there to those brakes. But if you do want to take it off, I thought this part was a little tough, a little bit tricky. You have to pop this up, make sure it's all the way open, then you kind of have to rock it back and forth just a little bit. So it's not 100% the easiest to get into that I've used. Oh, but man, look at that. That spool is shiny. Look, There's Debo. Anyway, the inside of that spool is crazy shiny. Now, I don't know if that's, you know, some sort of metal or something that helps it react. You know, with like an aluminum spool, it's not actually magnetic. So the magnetic brakes don't actually turn on and start working until that spool starts spinning. It creates that magnetic force, that magnetic field, and that's what slows it down. So kind of interesting. But when you take this spool out, the first thing you'll notice is it is really light. Now, I don't get into all the breakdown of like weighing the spool and comparing it to other spools. I'm more of a take it on the water and see how it does. However, I will urge you to check out the reel test. He is big into like BFS reels, weighing the spool, going into all that talk. So check out the reel test. He already did a review on this. He got his hands on one early and checked it out. So check out his thoughts. You can see what he thinks compared to what I think. He did a good video, a really good breakdown and everything on it. He's got a bunch of reviews too on a whole bunch of reels, so go check him out. But the first thing you'll notice is that the spool is very light. This is what they call their super tuned flight spool. So when I told you there was all these fancy things on here, flight shaft, flight spool, dream, what is it, dream tackle design, all that stuff on here. What the heck does that mean? Okuma worked with Dream Tackle to design and make this spool something that's going to cast lures easier, a lighter spool. So this spool comes in at 9.5 grams. Generally, the lighter the spool, the less startup inertia it takes to spin this. Now, it's not going to spin as long, like when you drop it on the ground and hopefully don't bend it. When you put this in your reel and spin it, it's not going to spin as long as other reels because this spool is lighter. It doesn't have as much inertia keeping it going. However, the lighter spool takes less inertia to start up. So you'll notice when you like go to flip and pitch, you can do that really easy. I was just doing that in my garage the first day I got it, just flipping a pitch and a jig, and it's like with ease, like it goes. But anyway, what's cool about this is if you were to cut open this spool shaft here, this is all hollow inside, and you can see on the end of it, there's little balls on each end of your spool shaft. So if you think of like a ballpoint pen, you take a pen out, at the bottom where you write with it, it's a ball down there and that grabs your ink and that's what writes. Same thing here. It's the exact same type as design there. It's got these little balls, these little bearings that are actually in the spool. Now this is a stainless steel spool shaft. So they said they added that to make it strong enough, you know, to withhold any sort of, you know, strong hook sets and stuff. And you can see on the inside there, the line doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. They've got a little bit of that hollowed out, a little bit of space, which helps keep that spool light. So with the bearing, everything on there, minus the line, 9.5 grams, that's pretty crazy. Okay, now as we put this back together, you wanna make sure that once you push that in, it is pushed in and locked in place. There's like a little bit of a push you have to give it there. And then putting this on, it was a little tricky the first time I tried it. However, I think I've kind of got it down here. As you put it in, you kind of twist it back and forth, and that side plate goes into there. So maybe a little bit trickier than some other reels, but once you've done it a couple times, it's not a big deal. And the good thing is you don't ever need to get in there when you're on the water to adjust any of your brakes. It's just gonna be a turn of the dial there. Now I had mine set on like 7, where I was doing most of my stuff, 1/4 ounce jig, 3/8 ounce swim jig, some other stuff you're gonna see here. But that's where I used. And the first thing that I noticed, like when I got out, and I was just gonna kind of show you here, it's a pretty quiet and pretty smooth reel. Now it's not the smoothest reel I own, but it's quiet. I mean, even when I do that, there's no geary grinding sound or anything. Now that could change over time, but also that changes when you keep and maintain your reel as well. You know, some people don't ever clean it or lube it or anything. I'm like, oh, it sounds like crud now. Also on here, you're gonna see behind the drag, there is a, behind the drag star, there is a line keeper, line indicator. So you can see mine's right between 14 and 16, meaning I have 15-pound fluorocarbon on here. And to change it, I feel like the best way to do it is just take your fingernail here and turn that a little bit. I don't have, you know, really any fingernails or anything, so just like that. It is kind of tough to turn, but again, I kind of like that to make sure I'm not gonna accidentally bump this and think I have 15 on here and knock it up and have it on 20. So it does have where you can set that. It does have a 90mm handle, and you'll notice the handle knobs are like this EVA, kind of a harder EVA. They remind me of the Lew's BB1, the Pro that I have that has these. However, these are a little bit smaller. They've taken me a little while to get used to because I'm used to like the bigger wind grips on the Lew's. I know they're actually gonna have 2 other versions of this reel. So they're gonna have a BFS reel made for casting real light lures, and then a pitch and flip version. I hope on the pitch and flip version they have bigger, like actual handle knobs. I don't know, we'll see, but these are kind of in between. I'm still kind of on the fence about it, but at least they're not uncomfortable. I wish these were bigger. Again, that's just a personal preference thing. But if you look at this compared to the Corrado K, Corrado K is a $200, what am I talking about? 200 size reel, so it is a larger reel. You can see there, definitely a larger reel on the Corrado K, but it's got a bigger line capacity too. This, I believe they said 12-pound mono holds 110 yards. So, you know, the Corrado holds more. It's a bigger, heavier feeling reel. I think the Corrado weighs like 7.4 7.6 ounces, something like that, I want to say off the top of my head. And you can feel it. I mean, you notice the difference right away. This feels like a much heavier reel. And that's not always bad. I kind of talk about that. There's some reels that I like. I kind of personally like a little bit beefier, heavier feel to it. I'll get into that more, but you can see the Corrado is definitely a bigger reel. Now also, if we go into Daiwa terms, the Daiwa Tatula 100, I think this is a $160 reel. The Corrado K is what, I think retail 179, I want to say, if I remember correctly. But you can see the Hakai is definitely smaller frame size, a much more compact, smaller, tinier frame that you're going to get with this. So some people might like that, or you might hate it. You know, there's certain hand types that just fit certain reels better. So if you don't like the real small, the real tiny, low profile reels, this might not be the reel for you. But if you like that feel, you'll probably like it. And then I also had the Lose here. I think this is another, you know, something similar in price that it's going to get compared to. And when you look at the kind of the size here, it's definitely closer in size to the Lose M&P. Now you can see this is still bigger, still definitely a bigger reel, but kind of that same shape, I guess, to it more. Just slightly thinner as far as width and slightly shorter. So again, and this is a small reel. This reel feels really good in hand. So I mean, that kind of tells you where this is at. Small, little, you know, light reel. I think the MP is 160. So if I didn't say, I might have skipped that. $169, $170 is where the Okuma Hakai comes in for retail price. You can order these. I'll leave the link below. They're going to have them over on Tackle Warehouse. I think they have them there for pre-order. I want to say December is when they were supposed to get those in, January, something like that. But now one thing I did notice is they have like a little like protective cap over this. Can you see that moving? I'm not sure why they did that. Usually the top is all frame. I haven't taken this down and apart yet, so I don't know if this piece comes off to clean and stuff. After I've used it for a few weeks, what do I think? The biggest thing that jumped out to me was the size and comfort, the weight of this reel. When you pick it up, you can tell it's a small framed little reel. I mean, if you look at this compared to their reel that I've actually had a lot of love for, is the Okuma Helios SX. One of their, I think this reel was like $250-ish. Great reel, smooth, casts really nice. Then they bring out this, like I said, at 170 bucks, and you're thinking, man, they're saying this is going to be better than this one. And in a lot of ways, it really is. I mean, I personally love the handle on this one. I like the handle more, but that's another deal. I mean, as far as size and weight, much smaller, much easier to palm. I had questions on, where is it? I picked up another one of their Okuma Guide Select. Y'all just saw me talking about this one, but I got the 6.9 medium. So this is a crankbait rod. I actually got this for jerkbaits, but you can see once you get this on here, I mean, it's a very small, low profile reel. Fits really well in hand. You know, the comfort, that's one of the biggest things to me is you pick up a brand new reel, you get it on a rod, the first thing you're gonna do is grab it and kind of try it and test it out like this, right? I don't care if that's a $1,000 reel. If you put it in hand and it hurts anywhere, it gives you any hot spots, it's not comfortable to hold, you know, you put it on the rod and it feels wonky, you're gonna revert back to whatever's comfortable. You're not gonna use it, you know, you might as well just return it. So for me, if you like a smaller frame reel, something like this where I'm using a jerk bait, I do like a smaller framed, lighter setup where I'm working this and using it. I want something like that. So, I mean, feels absolutely great once you get it mounted up on the rod, really good and solid in hand. Now, the other big thing, like I said, the first thing that I noticed when I picked it up was like, wow, this thing really is light. And again, coming in sub 6 ounces, 5.9 ounces, I was showing over there, you look at the Corrado, 7.6 ounces. Now, that's not always a bad thing. I'm kind of weird when it comes to some things, like if it's a lighter finesse deal, smaller jerk baits, I think this with like finesse jigs, just because of its ability to, well, cast that stuff. I'll tell you that in a minute, but and how it feels in hand, I like that. Now the Corrado, there's certain things where if I'm fishing a bigger jig or a bigger Texas rig, a frog, I personally actually like a combo that feels bigger in hand, that's a little bit beefier, that has a little bit more beef and weight to it. Whether or not it means that's better, I don't know. I'm weird that way. I like something that's like a little bit bigger, quote unquote, sturdier feeling. Not that this doesn't feel sturdy, but it's just so small and light. Like, you know, I'm thinking if I set the hook on this super hard, I'm gonna bust it. That's totally not the case. It's a mental thing with me, but it's not always bad having something that's a little bit bigger. I think a little bit bigger reel fits on some of the bigger rods when you're doing the heavier applications. Again, totally a mind thing. I have no issues, you know, or have no issues throwing a Texas rig on this. you know, trying it for frog fishing, I don't think that would be an issue. Maybe the line capacity, once you put big braid on, I like a little bit bigger reel, but I don't know. That's just kind of a me thing, but I mean, there's certain things like this for a jerk bait, a smaller crankbait, anything like that where I want a little bit smaller rod. This is going to be awesome. Okay, number 2, after you get your, you know, your brand new reel all spooled up, put line on it, you're all excited to go out and fish it, and you take that first cast and it backlashes. It doesn't matter how expensive that reel is. If it's hard to get dialed in, if it's hard to adjust, if it's a pain in the neck out on the water, backlashing every other cast, you're not going to want to use it. So this one, funny enough that I say that, I think I did backlash on the first cast because I think I had the brakes set at like 5 or 4. I was going to try to push it. I backlashed with it. However, I always look at how easy is that to resolve and how is it going to be going forward. And after I fixed it, even switching different lure weights, I mean, it was just a turn of the dial and I didn't have issues all day. So that's big for me. I don't want to be picking out backlashes and, you know, sitting here doing this, then my lure is going to sink, I'm going to get stuck in a log, and then I'm going to lose my lure and I'm upset. I didn't have issues with this all day after I got it dialed in. Now, I did have to change the brakes a little bit when I went to a little 1/4 ounce jig versus like the 3/8 ounce swim jig. But I'm okay with that. It's not like I expect it to just be one setting and throw everything. I'm fine doing that as long as it only takes like one try to do it, not, you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes to get that baitcaster dialed in. This was definitely not that way. I mean, easy to go once you got it dialed in. Once I got past that initial bravery backlash test, everything worked well. So the adjustability and then the castability. Once you get it adjusted in, how does it cast? And the weird thing about this, like I was saying, it's a quiet reel, and like when you actually, I'm not editing sound or anything out, when you actually cast it, it's really quiet. It's like a real weird free feel to it. I noticed that the first day using it, I was like, this feels different. So we'll see, you know, we need to see how it holds up, how the casting continues, but so far it'll sling a lure out there. I haven't done any, you know, actual casting distance tests. I've actually got a different casting distance test coming up. I had the old tape measure out, but I want to do that with this, you know, try to push this with some lighter stuff, just to kind of get a, you know, an idea of how far is it going to cast, how far does it compare to the Curado, okay, the Daiwa Tatula 100, some of those other reels in a similar price range, just to see how it does, because I'm a nerd and I like to do that stuff. Now, the other thing about castability is I've got some reels that are kind of picky with like fluorocarbon. This is 15-pound fluorocarbon. This is the P-line in the blue box, so nothing crazy special. Some reels are really finicky with fluorocarbon. You put braid on them and they cast fine, right? People are like, yeah, I put braid on it, it resolved it. I didn't have issues with this casting fluorocarbon. I didn't have issues changing lure weights. So there's some reels that I feel are kind of like fit into that certain niche. Like they'll do larger lures really well. They might do lighter lures better, you know, with a better line. I haven't tried braid and mono and stuff on that. Usually fluorocarbon's the culprit that's tougher. And I will say I didn't have any issues casting 15-pound fluorocarbon on this. Distance was good. Like I said, I haven't got to measure any of that, but distance felt really well. You know, casting it out, like I said, the weird thing is it felt like effortless, or like it took less work. And I think that is because of that lighter spool, that you don't need all that inertia. You don't need to really whip into it. You can just kind of zing it, you know, just kind of with a normal cast. And it was putting it out there far. So like I said, I can't tell you the distance, but I like it so far. I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I feel like they wanted to go to a power handle. So if you look at like the Lew's, the wind grips, that's what I'm kind of used to. You can see much bigger around. Some people hate these. There's people that absolutely hate these grips. So again, this is nitpicky on my part. It's just a personal preference. But I felt like they wanted to be power handles, but they didn't have quite enough oomph to get quite there. And again, some people like them. I gave it to my old man. He liked it. He likes the smaller handles. He doesn't like big, huge, gargantuan handles. So again, it's a me thing. It's not you. How many times did I hear that in my life? But really, you know, it's just kind of a me deal. Otherwise, everything else, feel in hand is amazing. I mean, it's super small. You know, I finger my line when I fish. If I can show you here, I always have my finger in front of my line there. I can hold that there comfortably. I can work a jig, a jerkbait, anything like that. No issues at all. Drag, I don't know, did I say it has 20 pounds of drag? I haven't actually got to test the drag as far as like how smooth it is. Usually with the baitcaster, I have it more locked down unless I'm fishing like lighter crankbaits, lighter line stuff. You know, I suppose if you wanted to really test the power of it, you could lock this down and, I don't know, hook it to a tree or tie it to a chair in your backyard and drag it around and see how it does, but I'm not going to do that. I will lock this down for the most part, with most things I do, like with 15-pound line, and if I end up hooking a gargantuan, I can always push my thumb bar down and a little bit of line out while I back that drag off. You know, it's just your thumb. You need to do that, and then you can engage it. Just in testing, when I back this off, it goes smooth. Again, my thing that I look at with drag is it doesn't have like a cheap felt drag washer in there that can get smashed and stuck to one side or the other, which isn't going to give you a good clean. It'll give you that kind of surging feel that that you don't want to feel in baitcaster drag. But and just in testing, this didn't have it. But again, I haven't got to test this, you know, on fish running and stuff. But I don't do that a ton bass fishing anyway like this. I'm going to kind of lock it down and throw a swim jig and swing for the fences and pull them in. Okay, so what are my final thoughts on the reel? Overall, I actually like it. You know, in this price point, it's kind of that mid price. I know it's not going to be for everybody, $170, but you're getting a lighter reel, a magnesium frame reel, which usually are not going to see under 200 bucks. You're getting a spool that's more of an aftermarket spool, right? With this, it comes with it. Light, small, everything that I think you want in a, you know, a small, low profile bait caster. You know, like I said, I had a couple, you know, kind of nitpicky things for me, but a lot of that's just going to be personal preference. Like I said, I'll link this down below. I'll leave my Tackle Warehouse link. Of course, I did partner up with them this year. They are available for pre-order. I think like January-ish, I want to say they're supposed to have this in, so still a little ways off, but they'll be coming soon. Pretty slick little bait caster. I'm excited to try to test it out more before we freeze. Here in Iowa, that is coming up way sooner than I would like. But comment below, let me know what your thoughts are on the Okuma Hakai Baitcaster, and also comment below and let me know what's the next piece of gear you want to see me review. I think it's probably going to be the SLX DC because I'm like a year overdue on that review. I am so sorry. I've had a bajillion people asking me, but that'll probably be next. But anyway, comment below, let me know what you think of this and some other gear reviews coming up. And today's subscribed fishing friend is Terry Deeb. Terry, thank you for always watching and supporting. I appreciate you and everybody else who continues to watch and support. It means a ton to me. I want to try to keep the videos going, the gear reviews especially. I've got more gear reviews than I need to do. I've been slacking on them, but it's because I'm like, I want them to be good, and then I end up not doing them because I want them to be so good, and then they don't get done. Anyway, what do you do? Anyway, more of that coming. Thank you all so much for watching. Appreciate you all, and until next time.